Hey, Dr. Jonathan Shepherd here. Good evening to everyone. It is so good to be with you on another Friday evening of Ask the Doctors broadcast, sponsored by Hope Health Systems, where I serve as a chief medical director. And I want you to know that is another Good Friday to be with us. I am so glad that you chose to watch this broadcast and listen to this broadcast, depending on where you're at. And I want you to come on in the room. Let me know that you're here. We have an awesome panel, awesome discussion today. This is Friday, May the 21st. And I really am just overjoyed with how much we're going to share today. I want to let people know that it is still our duty to maintain our vigilance as we fight the coronavirus pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic. I am so excited that we have people who are getting vaccinated, various countries. Various states, I should say. Hey, Letitia, how you doing? Thank you for being with us. Various states are not even offering up cash. Man, a shot for $1 million for a shot in the arm. Isn't that something? I live in the state of Maryland, and the governor just came out and told us that if you wait until July 3rd, there will be a drawing where you could win $400,000. Oh my Lord, if you get the vaccine. So anyway, whatever draws your attention to go get the vaccine, if it's money, if it's something else that is urging you to go get it, if it's me, putting out these different requests that we stay safe. I want you to go out there and get the vaccine. I understand that there are various concerns. I was just literally reading a survey before I went on the air here about how people are requesting a certain brand of the vaccine. 78% of people are requesting Pfizer vaccine. And I'm sure there's some reason behind that. That's not today's show. We could deal with that at a later time. But just wanted just to let you know that I am so happy to hear that things are, again, moving in the right direction. We are seeing lows in the amount of infection rates. We're seeing lows in the amount of hospitalizations and even deaths. And so that is a wonderful thing that is happening. Man, come on in the room, send a quick comment. Let me know that you are watching. We have such an awesome topic today. I don't know how you all feel out there. This has been a tough week. It's been a very tough week for me. I have lost some people. When I say lost through death, people who have been a tremendous blessing and impact on my life this week. And I know that this is a platform in which I share a lot of scientific knowledge. Hello, Angela Pickney. Thank you for joining us. I share a lot of Dr. Harris, Mary Harris. How you doing? How you doing? Wonderful. So I don't always share a lot about the religious aspects or parts of my life necessarily on this platform. Definitely not ashamed to do that because that's part of who I am. But in our denomination, we lost one of our giants. We called her the Giant Slayer, and her name was Joyce Rogers. And so that was a tremendous impact on my life and so many people throughout the world, throughout the globe. And so I am so saddened this week by her transition. Why am I mentioning that now? Because today we're going to talk about how do you handle the stressors in your life when all the stresses in your life seem to be coming at you at one time. Anybody out there struggling with having peace of mind? That was the teaser question I put out there. Oh man, come on in. Let me know. Thank you, Rhonda. Rhonda Hayes. She is a consistent viewer. Heidi Black, Sharon Amos. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Yeah. Anybody out there struggling with just maintaining your peace of mind? Just struggling, just trying to balance life. One of the things that this pandemic has done has really shown me, and I will speak for me, that the things that I used to worry about, they were so trivial. Some things that I was so concerned about or that seemed to be a priority in my life just wiped out, shifted. And when that happened, I began to prioritize things in a different way. And as I did that, it even bothered my mind. It even bother how I thought, because I was like, man, things I used to worry about, they're not even that important anymore. And it used to, and even as you were changing, and even as we're changing that, it would cause me to worry a little bit. And so, man, let me tell you, um, we got some awesome guests with me today that's going to help me peel back this layer. I want you to now, before we get going, I need you to share this broadcast. I need you to like it. I need you to send some hearts. I need you to know that you're out there. Wonderful that you're already responding. Thank you, Charlene Henderson. Thank you for letting me know that you're out there watching. Please send some more comments. Let me know that you're watching. But yeah, we're going to have our panelists peel back some of these layers about what happens when you're struggling with peace of mind. Also, we're going to talk about the strength to endure life's challenges. I've been doing some reading about, thank you, Rhonda, for sharing about endurance training. And so I want to stop right there because I don't want to preempt our guest. I'm going to bring our first guest on. She is a tremendous person who I've gotten to know over the last couple of months. And I am so privileged that she accepted the invitation to be on the broadcast today. And that is none other than the Reverend Odell Montgomery Cooper. I said the whole name.
As the kids said, the whole government name. Good
Yes, how you
evening, Dr.
doing?
Shepard. How are you?
Oh, as I said, this has been a difficult week, but I am here.
Yes.
I am here. I'm maintaining. And yeah, I see so many people are sending out love to you, Heidi Black, and yeah, good evening. People are sharing the love, so yeah, share some love with Reverend Odell, and
Yes.
tell the people a little bit about yourself, what you do, and we want to hear
What I
about
do.
you.
What I do is
Yes,
I take care of myself now. I say now I work for God. That's what I do. I've had to reinvent myself, and then that's what you kind of invited me here for. Is my doctor said that I needed to reinvent myself after having a brain aneurysm 4 years ago. My son was murdered about 5 years ago now from gun violence, killed by another black man who looked just like him, mistaken identity,
wow,
and not understanding the difference between grief and traumatic grief, and going through this police investigation and understanding the racism that's involved in young 24-year-old black man killed in a particular area at 1:30 in the morning. I live in New Haven, Connecticut, depending on where your audience is.
yes,
So given on the location that he was murdered in, he's 24-year-old black man, had to be up to no good, from and living in Brooklyn at the time. So had to work through a lot of stereotypes and a lot of myths and a lot of pain. And a year after his murder, I had a brain aneurysm on his birth date.
wow,
And the doctors told people who were my church family and friends who were in the waiting room praying for me and online, he came out and said, "Stop." and you all need to really spend time on her funeral because she's not going to make it.
Wow.
And, and when I say it to people, they go, I go, it's okay. I'm here.
Right.
You're looking at me. I'm here. I'm here. So it's been a journey. You talks about ups and downs. It's been just that. I'm, Howard University graduate. I'm a seminary graduate. I was used to taking care of myself and being independent and being active in ministry. I'm a Delta, part of Delta Sigma Theta
All
sorority,
right.
and it's got the red on today, so I'm representing. But all that didn't matter when I had the brain aneurysm and dealing with the traumatic grief that I had to go through. So you say, what am I doing? I've had to reinvent myself and
Wow.
to take care of myself. And I'm not one of those people that can just, okay, sell the house, rent a room, and just follow the pastor around from church to church or sit around and cut the grass or plant trees or something. I needed to find something that would continue to validate my life. So that's what I've had to do. I'm on this mission of using my voice, of teaching people how to turn trauma into healing.
Mm.
And that's what I am doing now, but being mindful and taking care of myself, which is not easy.
Wow. Now wait a minute. Reverend Odell, you're not supposed to start the show and just hit us hard. Just
Bam, there you go.
I mean,
Pick what you want.
did you all hear what this woman has been through? So remember, we're talking about strength to endure, right?
Yes.
She came through the pandemic, and I know so many of us, and again, we're still in the pandemic, okay? So let me not just say it's over yet, but she had to reinvent herself. Number two, she suffered a brain aneurysm. The year after her number three, her son was murdered, and yet this woman is looking like a picture of health right now on this broadcast. We got to come back to you and figure out how is it that you look like you do and yet went through these things that we just discussed or that you just shared with us. And first of all, thank you for your transparency because you just helped somebody else out there. I just saw in the comments that someone mentioned about losing their own son. Um, yeah, and actually around the same time, it looks like 4 years ago.
Okay.
Um, yeah. So it's I it is something that unless you've been there, it's there's not a feeling to describe that.
There
Um,
isn't.
and
Yeah.
so I want to hear about that. Before I go further with that, did you want to say something? I
I was
heard
gonna
you.
s-
Yes.
being in ministry, I'm used to consoling parents.
Mm,
That's our role when there's a death. We know what to say. That's our role in ministry of consoling and counseling. And I think about all the things that I've said to parents, and I wish I could take them back, and
wow.
I would say them differently. So it's very different when you're the one now that has to come and sit in the front pew at the church.
Now wait a minute. You can't let me just. You can't let us just. But I can't just move off of just that. I don't learn enough about it broadcasting that when somebody says something like that, you just now what is it that you would change? Because you just said something that was so powerful. Because so many times we think we're helping people when we actually could be causing more harm.
I have said the cliches that Christians say. God doesn't give you more than you can handle. Keep praying. God's going to get you through this. And yes, God will get you through it, but that's not something someone wants to hear when there's a casket sitting in front of them and their loved one is in it.
Wow.
I have quoted scriptures, I have prayed, and I even remember saying to a mother, um, your child is in heaven with God and in a much better place. And if their child wasn't sick, why would we want them to be in heaven with God? We want them to be here with us. So that's not a much better place for us.
Mm,
So I bought into all the cliches that we're supposed to say to make someone feel better.
Wow.
And I would take everything back. I've actually called the mother and had a conversation with her and have retracted what I said to her,
Mm,
and had a conversation, because people have said that to me when my son died, and I didn't want to hear it. But he's in a much better place. He wasn't sick. He was
mm,
murdered.
wow.
What do you mean, God's? I mean, you're kind of mad at God when you actually go through this. And yes, I'm a reverend, and I've said I was mad at God, but it's okay. God can handle it.
Hmm.
So yes, I went through all of that, and it's not. I have a different outlook now, much
Wow.
different outlook.
Wow. Wow. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And so many people have been commenting as you were talking. And so please be encouraged by that. I have another guest, and uh, please forgive me because,
He's
uh,
here.
yes, he is
Yes,
here.
he
Yes,
didn't leave me alone.
he is. He's here. He's been there, but you went on such
I'm
a
sorry.
no, 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 no. When I can't find words, that means you've been doing really good. That means it's you don't allow somebody to put the brakes on you when you are moving forward, and people need to hear what you had to say, Reverend Odell. I have next with me the state representative, the Reverend Dr. C.L. Starworth, and I am so glad that he is here. How you doing, sir?
Man, I'm over here shouting, praising God. I'm just listening to Reverend Odell, and I just stepped out of a funeral, but I'm just celebrating God for you, my brother, and for my sister.
Wow, wow. Thank you. Thank you. Well, welcome to Ask the Doctors broadcast. And so tell the people a little bit about who you are, what you do. You're a state representative. We want to hear a little bit about the things that you have been able to do in this life.
Thank you so much. Let me first of all just thank you, Dr. Shepherd, for the opportunity to be on your show. It is indeed an honor, and I'm also honored to be on with Reverend Odell, such a powerful person in God. You know, when I was in high school, my counselor told me to go to the local lumber company and get a job because I probably didn't have the skills. But I need to tell her tonight, if I could send her an email to heaven, I would say to her, you need to see me tonight because I'm on the show with Dr. Shepherd and Reverend Odell. I have arrived. I've made it. So I want to make that known for the record. I'm going to put this on my resume. I'm going to put it on my resume. You know, I'm just Gus's baby boy, native of the great state of Alabama, a little small town in Beatrice, Alabama, and fortunate to have met you as we had some discussions about mental health and just trying to be a servant and to be used of people. I'm still trying to get my mental capacity back and my spiritual capacity after listening to Reverend Odell for the past few minutes. But I'm just happy to be here tonight and to be part of this conversation.
Absolutely. So, Reverend Dr. C.L. Starworth, why don't we just hear a little bit about your personal story? We're talking about the strength to endure life's challenges. And so, Reverend Odell has already set the bar so high. Uh, and again, we don't sit here and compare stories now. Please know that. It's just that when we talk about our individual stories, it is a boost, whether or not you know it. And so, Reverend Starworth, somebody needs to hear your story. So share with us, please.
But man, you know, after hearing Reverend Cooper, I'm about to take my box and go home. You know,
No, I'm
uh,
just glad you didn't
but
leave me alone.
no way, no way, no way, no. I'm standing on in the car driving, trying to get here. So people talked just a little longer in the funeral than what I expected. But it was a great life celebrated. You know, the major shift in my story actually happened in the '90s when I was pastor of a church in Des Moines. Uh, at that time, and I know we don't like to gauge churches, but it was the leading church in the city and the leading church in the state. I had become uh, state president of our state convention, the youngest president in the country in our National Baptist Convention, to be president of a state. Just finished my doctorate, building the church, and went into a major depression. Uh, Matter of fact, on my home on my way home one night from church, I actually got lost, and I was only 2 blocks from my home, and I actually got lost. I was so bent on applying scripture in a particular way, the garment of praise for the spirit of heaviness. So I said, I'm depressed. Not I was depressed. I said, I'm sad. I just shot my way out of it. And I would often leave church feeling just as badly as I did when I arrived. The praise and excitement for the moment served a great purpose, but it did not lift me. And it was only that night that I got lost going home and called a friend who was a physician, and just to say to him, something is wrong. And when I discovered it was depression, as I've said before, I'm praying to God, like, God, give me something else. I'd rather stand up and tell my congregation I have cancer than to stand up and tell them that I am depressed.
Wow.
And it was just that stigma attached to it. In our denomination, as many others, and especially in our African-American culture, you tell your church you have cancer, they're going to have a prayer meeting for you. Whole prayer group is going to be called a Stalwart Prayer Group for the Healing. Tell them that you are depressed, you have a mental health issue, then they could very well be looking for another preacher, or you could be looking for another job. And so that was a great part of my journey. And that's the part that we have to some degree shared together. And once I thought what was a bounce back from that, I relocated from Iowa to Alabama and went to a very traditional church and was actually fired from that church in a very public and nasty way that would make the evening news. I was sitting in front of the TV with a remote in my hand, so if the news would come on, I could flip it so my kids wouldn't see it. And so, having just come out of that bout with depression, and then going into that struggle was a journey. Thank God I learned some skills that helped me to cope, and came out of that situation. Came here, unfortunately, went through a divorce, and my 5-year-old granddaughter was killed in a car accident almost at the same time. So God has been powerful in giving strength. And as Reverend Cooper has said, many scriptures take on different meaning. I know I say to people, maybe you hear God won't put more on you than you can bear. Whoever told you that? You find that maybe God will put more on you than God can bear. But whoever told you God will put more on you than you can bear? Maybe that relates to temptation or something, but the burdens of life. But God has I had a mother and a father who just instilled a fight spirit in me, and God has given me comeback.
Wow. Man, this is so good. Oh, if you have not shared this yet, something's wrong with you. I say that with all respect as possible. You need to share this right now. I want to reset the room. Man, I see so many of my friends who are out there. Pastor Montez Jones, who was one of the guests, I believe, last month. And again, others are commenting, and thank you for being out there. And our numbers are continuing to increase as people are sharing. Pastor, you said something that is so key and really is speaking to an aspect that I'm going to have some. I have some upcoming engagements. I want to use that line that you just stated, that you would rather stand before your congregation and tell them that you had cancer as opposed to depression.
Yes.
That right there was powerful, because that speaks to so much. It speaks to the stigma. It speaks to the hurt and the fear that one would have. It even speaks to the inadequacies, the deficiencies that one may even have because of the human frailty of our minds. Wow, that one step. So, yeah, Reverend, we're going to speak to that. Reverend Cooper, I want to go back to you because, based off of what Reverend Starworth has said, both of you have gone through so many challenges. Take us through some of those steps on how to be able to endure what you faced.
My faith.
Okay.
My faith got me through. And for those who are not believers, when you lose someone tragically the way that I did, it automatically causes you to question your faith. And I knew that I was mad at God, and I let God know. And I always say this in front of Dr. Starworth, that I know this is incorrect theology. So all the other pastors out there listening, but I didn't get mad at Jesus, because Jesus only does what God tells him to do. So I went straight to the head. I was mad at God, but I knew not to harden my heart, because I knew one day God was going to bless me. And when God blessed me, I knew that I needed to be able to receive it in my heart. So my faith got me through. And being the myths, talk about myths and stigmas, is that I was raised to be, and I was told, you're a strong Black woman. You keep what's
Mm,
going on in your house to yourself. You
mm,
don't let people know that you're needy. Don't cry. You don't ask for anything. Get it yourself. Is why you're educated, and you have keep money in the bank. You do all these things, but when you go through a traumatic situation like I did, I had to release myself
mhm.
of all of that, not to question God, not to tell people I was hurting, not to ask for help. And I had to do that. I had to rediscover a new relationship with God. And I had to tell people what I was going through and ask for help and accept it. And that was the hardest thing to do.
Wow. I'm jotting down. When you see me writing, that means I'm jotting some
Okay.
stuff down. So please know that I am paying you full attention. Now, hopefully, you all are jotting some things down too. Reverend Cooper mentioned your faith.
Yes.
So you want to make sure that you have some type of grounding. Your faith should be your foundation. It should be something that settles you when you are faced with challenges. um, People might say, well, Dr. Shepherd, this is Ask the Doctors. I didn't know we were going to be talking about faith. Well, let's talk about faith. Want to know why? Because what happens when we go through crises? What happened on 9/11? We run to the churches. What happened even when you go back to the assassinations of various persons? They will run to their faith and religious leaders. So we are a country that is built on faith. We're a people of faith, even though we may not act like it all the time. And let me tell you, your mental health, how you think about yourself, is really tied into how you believe in your character and into your faith. So it all intertwines. It really does. So thank you, your faith, and then be able to ask for help, be able to be vulnerable enough. I use that word to
Yes.
ask for help. Reverend Starworth, come on, jump in. What steps did you take from moving? I didn't realize you moved from what was it, Alabama to Iowa,
Alabama to
and
Iowa.
yeah, and now
From
you,
Iowa to Alabama. All right, even I have it mixed around. When I
yeah.
left, when I got to a certain place in Iowa, then I moved back to Alabama. I thought I was going back to help my people.
Wow, wow, wow. And now you are in Connecticut. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Right. So come on, give us some steps on how do we endure.
You know, I worked out in retrospect a system that worked for me. While I was going through, I don't know how faithful or how well I held on to my faith. I think there's a time when we are not holding God, but God is holding us. And I reached that point in my journey when that anger, when that disappointment set in, when frustration set in. And I just said, God had to hold me at that particular moment. And I, in retrospect, have, developed some steps that I call good ground, good grind, and good
Mm,
guidance, and good
right.
groan, and good grief, and good God. Just some things I know I need to do to keep moving forward. And sometimes for me, those are as much physical and mental as spiritual.
Mhm. Go through some of those because I've heard you say some of those.
Yes,
Yeah, go through
good,
some of those.
good ground. I was able when I went through my bout of depression, I was able to make an initial connection because I had who someone that I could reach out to that I felt safe enough to say to him, something is wrong. This is not just sadness for a day, but something is going on. And I felt that safe ground, that good ground with him, that we need someone who has, I say, the compassion of Christ. And the person may not even be a Christian, but yet has the compassion of Christ. And for me, that was that good ground. For me, good guidance, mental health professional. I'm a preacher, trained preacher, but I'm not a counselor in the professional sense, a psychiatrist. And at that particular moment, I needed medication to get me over the bridge. Maybe 5 years from now, I won't need it. But right now, I need something to give me some stability and some grounding to let me sleep. Because I had those thoughts of, well, I'm not going to kill myself, but if I don't wake up in the morning, it's okay. And so I needed that medication to get me over, and that was a good guidance. Yes. And the good grind for me was I had to get up and get my body moving, just get up and walk, just get up and exercise. And the other three, the grief, if I'm going to have grief, I need to make the best of it. And that, what I call good grown, that self-talk, where I just sit and talk myself into an even deeper depression. But most of all, the good God is to recognize the depression I was going through was not a reflection of my relationship with God. I was not possessed by some demon. I did not have a bad relationship with God. My brain was ill and I needed help.
Absolutely. Oh, this is good, man. And you know what really I love about the piece about medication?
Yes. Yes. And I took it faithfully, to which I am not ashamed. As a matter of fact, when I came back, I told my church, I said, one Sunday I'm going to slip everybody an antidepressant when it comes to communion time. So we're going to all be on medication because you need a banana peel.
Oh, Lord. Lord.
I needed that medication to get across the bridge. If I need it again, I would take it without a second thought. And I say to anybody, yes, you need to pray. Absolutely. But sometimes you need medication to help you. I take high blood pressure medicine. I don't question my relationship with God. And so medication was needed for me. And so I told people, I'm the pastor of the church, but I need to be well. I need to be healed.
Yeah. And Dr. Jonathan, I was telling you earlier that those are myths that we have within our culture, is that you don't go to counseling and you don't take medication. And that's where I was struggling exactly with that. Do I take this pill? And I've had pastors, oh, come see me, don't take the pill. And other pastors, well, it's your choice. And the doctor says you need this. But, my mother's voice in the background was like, don't get hooked on medication.
Yeah. And I echo that. And people have said to me, I don't like taking medication. It makes me sleepy, or if it makes me feel a certain kind of way. Well, that's not the only medication on the market. Maybe you should go back to your doctor and say, yes, can I try another one? Because I've had some other medications that had side effects. So, allow your doctor to find one that works for you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. No, this is good. And I'm really going to comment because I'm glad you said that, Reverend Cooper, because one of our listeners, she commented about not wanting to take medication. And Rhonda, I think that was you. And how you doing, Nikki? Nikki Green is out there. But I wanted to say this regarding medication. Thank you for saying that, Dr. Starworth, because as a physician, as a prescriber, I do believe in medication. Otherwise, I wouldn't be prescribing it. The thing that is very important, and which when you work with me, I make sure of a couple things. If we're going to use medication, we need to know the purpose of it, know why you're taking it and how it works, and then be with somebody who is listening to you, so that if there are side effects, if there are effects that you don't like, that you can discuss it with that person. One of the major things, and then I'm going to leave it alone. One of the major things I found out with people who have mental health issues or behavioral health issues is that when they get on medication, some of them have been used to a certain state of mind for so long that when they come out of it, they don't even know what it is to feel better. That's amazing. Y'all, I just said something. I don't care what you said.
I remember having my appointment with my doctor, who said, I want to prescribe this medication to you. And I put my hands on my hips, jerked my head. I said, you know what? I don't take medication. I said, you are just so upset that you have a 54-year-old black woman on your roster who doesn't take medication. My head was going like this. And I said, you just have to keep me on something so you can get paid. And he just looked at me and he said, let me explain it to you. You had a brain aneurysm.
Ooh,
I'm giving you this to help clean your arteries out. You need to
wow.
take this. And I'm giving you this to help you to go to sleep because your brain doesn't know how to rest so that
Mm.
you can get a good night's sleep and not wake up and feel relaxed. And I said, oh, okay. you
Hmm.
know, but it's when we have to ask ourselves, like you said, you prescribe medication, you know it, but when did we get our doctor's degree? You know, it says I may be on Ask the Doctors, but I am not one. So I needed to listen to mine, and that's what I had to do.
Yeah, yeah, and we have to find somebody who you trust. Again, I'm going to go back to talking about vulnerability. If you're
Yes.
going to be vulnerable with someone, you have to trust that person. And when you're trusting people, they don't always look like you. I always get asked that question. Well, do I need to have someone of the same race as me in order to treat me? And I tell people, absolutely not, because there's some people of the same race as me that I wouldn't go to. So it's just you have to build that relationship. It's not about color, it's not about skin color, but it is about sensitivity. It
Yes.
is about knowledge and trust. And we want to make sure that you're teaming up with people, especially we're talking about strength to endure. Uh, I want to pivot here. This is good. Man, this is good. This is really good. The definition of endure, and this is really kind of blowing my mind here. The definition of endure is to remain firm under suffering or misfortune without yielding. All right. I'll say it again. The definition of endure is to remain firm under suffering or misfortune without yielding. Um, hmm. So I want you, Dr. Starworth, you start out. I want you to give some practical tips and tips to that person who's facing a crisis right now. I shared earlier that we suffered a major loss this week of a person who was a mentor to me, one who I adored, trusted, and who I looked up to. And this has been the case for several months now, losing people, death. Some people are facing financial crises. All right. Some people are facing housing crises, even though the housing market is supposed to be all high, people are being evicted. All right. Because they can't pay their rent. They don't have enough money. So people are trying to figure out, how do I endure during this time of suffering or misfortune without yielding? Without yielding to those thoughts that you talked about of not wanting to be here. What are some of the things that you would tell the people?
Wow.
You're up first, Dr.
Just say my
Starworth.
you.
I think he's frozen a little.
I
Get,
think
First,
so.
oh man.
can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you, but the video's a little slow. That's all.
Okay. Should I continue or should I try to
Yeah.
slow down?
You know what? Reverend Cooper, I'm gonna put you on the spot. Why don't you go ahead and take that question on?
I think it was a setup, Doc.
Uh, right.
I think
He was driving in the car. I saw it, no problems. Now he gets steady and stationary. Uh, but yeah, but go ahead, Reverend Cooper.
um, tips for people. It's for me. I have to just always fall back on my faith. Um,
Mhm.
I, like Reverend Starworth said, I losing my son. I didn't want to live. The pain was just too heavy to bear. And not that I did anything to take my life. It's just that, like he said, if I didn't wake up the next day, I'm okay with it. because it
Yeah.
was that heavy. But then I realized that I had, because I had the aneurysm on my son's birth date, I didn't want to cause generational trauma to my daughter
Mm,
because it would have destroyed her life. So we
mm,
have to be conscious of generational trauma, not passing on trauma to the next generation and allowing our children to pick up our pain and continue to carrying it. So I would encourage people to be mindful of what they pass on to their children, because the words that we speak and the life that we live, we're asking our kids to pick up this trauma and carry it, carry the hate, the pain, the anger, the loss. And people are dead and gone and they're still carrying it. um but for me, the main thing was someone had at my church, I think she's online, she told me I was stubborn and I didn't like to listen, and I had to listen to her because someone that you trust. So I trusted her, and when she said I'm stubborn, I don't like to listen, I had to start asking for help and receiving it and letting people love me in a way that I was praying for.
wow. Man, you said again, I tell you, Reverend Cooper, I love your responses here today. You talked about generational trauma, and it's one of those things that people don't understand, that you can pass down the mental health disorder that you're battling, that you're facing right now. Um, all right, I just hear myself in a little echo there. That's why I just hesitated.
Yes, Reverend Starworth's got two screens trying to figure which
Yeah, I
one he's
see it.
running.
Yeah, I get it. I just muted him real quick. So what happens is when you carry um, trauma, anxiety is the same way.
Absolutely.
I'm seeing that even more so with children today.
Yes.
Um, Anxious children typically have anxious parents.
Yes.
And let me tell you, you said something there, that you could be carrying the trauma after the person who gave it to you is no longer even here on earth.
And you're still carrying it, and it's preventing you from moving forward. And you're a doctor, you know this. I didn't know that it's hereditary.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
He's like, what do you do? I spend time learning who I am now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Who God has saved and what my mission is. So that's, I spend a lot of time learning.
Yeah. 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 So that is so important that we understand that how we respond to the life's challenges is passed down to our future generations. That is very important. All right, Dr. Starworth, I think we got it together.
All right, my bad.
Come on and come on and join in this conversation. What you got to say?
Yeah, you made a lot of great points, and one in particular I just want to echo. First, I was trying to say my sympathy and condolences to you for the loss that you experienced this week. Uh, but you reference sort of the idea of uh, something being wrong and you not know it. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
because I have no idea when I became depressed or how many years I had been depressed before it was diagnosed. If I had not simply just called it something else. So I would say, first of all, to understand to some degree your real problem, the problem you are really struggling with, is to figure out what that is.
Right.
And when you figure out what that is, be willing to challenge some traditional faith statements, some traditional beliefs. I hear people from time to time say, "Well, you can't question God." Well, to be in a relationship in which I cannot ask questions sound like abuse to me. And
Mm.
God was the one who started this questioning stuff anyway by asking Adam, "Where are you?" So I think we have to be willing to question some of our traditional, because sometimes our traditional beliefs, faith statements that may sound good but may not be good, actually complicate even more of the problem that we're already having. And so how do we figure out what's really going on? And how do I have that real honest conversation with God and with myself, to try to figure out what's going on with me first?
Yeah. I'm going to throw this question to you, Dr. Starworth, since I put Reverend Cooper on the spot, so I'm going to do that to you.
Thank you.
Here's a question from a friend of mine down there in Houston. So we got folks down in Houston watching.
Awesome.
Yeah, she asked the question: how are you able to recognize whether the trauma you carry is passed down?
Oh, that's a great question. You know, that information only came to me later in life, that we actually passed this trauma down to others. But I remember my mother, I think it was called 900 Plaza or something like that, would actually go to this clinic in which she would not allow me to go in. And she was going there for mental health. That's why she was going. She was going for mental health. And I remember even one of her prescriptions, Sinequan or something like that. Being a child, I kind of said, I think I'm gonna take one of these to see how it makes you feel. one side effect, you would get a real your nose would like it was gonna clog up or something. I was going, oh my God, I'm gonna die. I'm not gonna do that again. I think she suffered with depression as well, and I don't know who else in the family, and so I don't know if there's a test to determine, is this something that just developed in you or was it passed down? But my mother suffered from depression as well.
Wow. And let me tell you another way in which you can recognize there are certain traits that people will carry, certain personalities, attitudes. There are different ways in which I speak that when people see my father speak, they're like, oh my God, you speak just like your father. You know, because I'm his son. And so when you take time to recognize, oh my Lord, this is how so-and-so used to respond, and now I'm doing the same thing. That's when you need to say, wow, either I need to stop that if it's an unhealthy mechanism of how I'm responding, a maladaptive behavior pattern. That's what we call them in the science world. Maladaptive behavior patterns. So many of us have maladaptive behavior patterns. Those who are parents, you should be teaching your children. Just because you can't get a toy at this time, you don't sit there and pout and cry and throw a tantrum. But many of us didn't learn that as a child. We just got whatever we wanted. We just get, and we got spoiled. And then when we got adults, we didn't know how to be able to handle when we got disappointed. Wow. And so
I can see that so greatly with my mother, because my mother raised 7 kids. And whatever happened, my mother's philosophy was keep moving forward. You know, you go outside and cut your foot halfway off. My mother like, wrap it up. You know, you're fine. Keep going forward. So I learned to internalize everything. It's probably still not, healthy.
Yeah. When my mother was dying of cancer, I remember in her hospital bed, I asked her, can I trust my father? And she said no. Well, she said no because of her relationship with him. So my mother is dead and gone, and it's just my father and I didn't trust him. And even though he tried to build this relationship, I still carried what my mother gave me. And those challenges of our relationship that he had to put up with was because of the trauma that my mother felt with him. She gave it to me, and I said, I'm going to not trust you. And he was trying.
Wow. I mean, this is good because so many times people, they just respond and they don't know why they're responding the way in which they are. One of the questions that's being asked right now, and I think is just a lead in, is what process would a person begin to break the cycle of passed down trauma? Now, remember, we're talking about strength to endure.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're breaking cycles, that takes some strength, right? You just don't break a habit by saying, "Oh, I'm done with it today." Okay. I'm not sure what habit that was. Yeah, you probably might have a good week, but let me tell you, that thing's gonna creep back up because you haven't dealt with it. And so, what I want to make sure that as we're and I do want to address that question, but I want to keep it in line with how we must maintain that strength to be able to break that cycle. So, Reverend Starworth, I don't know if you want to tackle a little bit about what that process looks like to that one will begin to break the cycle of and they say passed down trauma, but they mean generational trauma.
Right. For me, first would be to embrace the good portions of whatever was passed down to us. And so I understand in my mind, I'm not just trying to break totally with my past. Mother, my father passed down some traits to me that I probably should get rid of. They also passed down some positive things.
That's right.
Determination. So I need to embrace those and to recognize that everything they passed down was not good. And that I most likely would need someone outside of Charlie Stallworth to help challenge and to help me get a process together to break certain habits and patterns. Because if I could break them, I probably would have broken them 20 years ago. But the fact that I'm still dealing with them today means I need a Dr. Shepherd or Reverend Odell to give me some advice of, how to change this particular process.
Yeah. Reverend Cooper, did you have anything you want to add to that?
Totally agree with Dr. Starworth. I had to think about a time that I felt good. And when I had that feeling in my head, then I said, what's preventing me from feeling that way today? And I literally had to my mother said this, my race tells me I have to do this, my gender tells me I have to do this, my education, my zip code, my Bible tells me I have to do this. And if those things are connected to why I'm not feeling good, then you wrestle with it. And that's what I did. I wrestled with the scripture. And Reverend Starworth and I've talked about finding those scriptures that are feel good, that make you feel better, and not oppressive scriptures that some pastors are preaching from the pulpit. And when your parents say you're not supposed to talk about this and you keep this to yourself, if that's not making you feel good today, then you've got to wrestle with it and let it go. And what I really had to learn was that my God was bigger than the scriptures in my Bible. And I had to, like Reverend Starworth said, I had to find someone that could help me to understand God more so than what's being preached from the pulpit or what I remembered in the scriptures. And not everybody can do that. So you've got to remember when you felt good and just do the work. What's preventing me from feeling that way today, and just break it down. It's not easy.
No, it's not.
Easy. It's not easy because you're getting rid of your culture, your gender, all these myths and stigmas. You've got to let them go.
Wow. Eliminating the myths and the stigmas. I hear you. Let me just reset the room real quick as we're grinding down to our last 5 to 7 minutes here. I cannot believe it. I have one of the elders, and she's one of the senior women in the state of Maryland who is on watching. Mother Lucille Spann. Mother Lucille Spann has got to be at least 95 years old. And I believe is older than that. She made comment, and I love Mother Lucille Spann. And I made sure she had masks. She called me up. Dr. Shepherd, I need some masks. I'm not going out this house, but I need some masks because these people coming up in my house, and I need to be protected. Oh, I am so pleased to know that she is watching. That just tells me that this topic is so relevant because it spans from the oldest to the youngest about strength to endure. I'm sure she can tell us some things. She has seen so much that has occurred throughout the decades of her life, but yet still needing more strength to endure. And so that's kind of what I want to leave with the message today. You all have given some wonderful tips, some strategies, again, on Ask the Doctors, to let people know that in life's challenges, it's okay to struggle, but you need to know where and how to find help when you're going through that struggle. And you need to have some endurance training. I've been studying a little bit about endurance training, the difference between aerobic exercise and anaerobic exercise, and that is so key. And I can't really get into it all today because I'll take us a whole another 30 minutes. But I tell you, when you look at the difference between aerobic and anaerobic exercise, one of them is going to use oxygen, which is what you need to survive, and another one's not going to use oxygen. So one is just a real quickie, and one is for long term. And what I tell you, when you want endurance, we want to make sure that you can survive the test. So that's how I'm going to pitch it to you all. I want you all to have a closing statement with a word of encouragement. I need you to speak to the people. There's been so many hits. People were ready for 2021 to come around. And let me tell you, 2021 has been just as devastating as 2020. So we need some strength to endure. So come on, Reverend Starworth, tell us, what is it that we need to do?
First is kind of a statement that keeps me laughing. I heard someone say, whoever in 2020 on Watch Night preached about 2021 would be your year, owes the people a refund. But I would say, as you hold on to your faith, figure out what in your faith works for you. Because for me, when I'm depressed, and I know you probably gonna get some like, don't bring this guy on your show anymore, but when I am depressed, I don't listen to gospel music. Because it's just so much. We barely made it and we're coming through a storm. I don't need to hear that right now. I need to hear warrior. So find out in your faith what works for you and hold on to those things. I remember, I make it brief. I remember when I was in Alabama, probably some of the reasons I got in trouble, but the choir, like every other Sunday, was saying, God got a blessing with your name on it. And one Sunday I just stood up and said, you know what? You've been singing that for 3 months. If I haven't gotten it yet, chances are I ain't gonna get it. So can we find something to sing about? So find out in your faith what works for you and hold on to it. If it's that honest conversation with God, to say, God, I feel like screaming right now. I feel like taking a drink right now. I feel like, whatever is that honest conversation, whatever in your faith tradition works for you, hold on to that.
Oh, Lord.
So if you get some hate mail saying, he's been through a lot, you got to give him back.
No.
Go ahead, Reverend Cooper. You can help me out.
Reverend Starworth, you are so correct. It's finding those songs that, going up to yonder. I don't want to hear that song. I don't want to go up yonder. But, for me, the only gospel person I can listen to is Donnie McClurkin. No one else soothes my spirit. And when I play Donnie, you must know that I'm depressed and I shut people out. Because I have to go through it. So when people are depressed, we often say that they're moody and they're sometimey. Well, we're not moody and sometimey. We're depressed, and we're trying to figure out the best way to get through this so that we can get through it. So like he said, find out what works for you. And it's my faith, and it's that music that soothes us. And listen to your bodies. We know our bodies. We know when it's telling us something's wrong. You get a headache, you take a Tylenol. If your eyes are sleepy, you know it's time to go to sleep. Listen to your bodies. Don't ignore it. Like I said earlier, someone said to me, when did you get your doctorate's degree? And so listen to your bodies and keep the faith. work through it, fight through it. And I keep saying over and over again, ask for help, accept the help because you're praying for it, and just get rid of those stigmas.
This has been so good. Thank you for your realness. Thank you for your transparency, because that's what happens with endurance training. You need someone to help push you. Um,
Yes.
the anaerobic exercise, that's just a quick burst. You can just go ahead and do it, and it's done. But if you're going to do the endurance training, you need to have someone to say, come on, let's go a little bit further. You need that coach. You need that trainer to say, come on, you can step out a little bit further. You can push this a little bit harder. And let me tell you, there's so many people who've gotten stuck in the pandemic and they need the push. They need to know that they can endure. This really works on our mental health. And I'm drawing to a close here. For our mental health is defined in four aspects. It is defined by your potential, your ability to cope, your ability to work, and your contribution to the community. That's what defines your mental health. And you want to make sure that when you are facing life challenges, they will weigh on those four aspects of your life. But those four aspects of your mental health, I should say, four aspects of your mental health, are something that you must continue to gauge and check each and every single day. PCWC, that is my mantra. So look for me to even write a book on that, because that is what mental health is all about, those four aspects. And if you can keep that in mind, then you're going to be okay. This has been awesome. Oh, someone wants me to repeat it one more time. PCWC. Yes. PCWC. Mental health is the state of being where every individual recognizes his or her own potential. P is able to cope with the normal stresses of life. C, work productively and fruitfully. W, and then the last C is make a contribution to your community. PCWC. All right. So remember that. That will help you as you're going through your challenge. That will help you as you are doing the endurance training of life. All right. This has been awesome. I'm going to stop right here. I've got to stop. I've got to stop. I've got to stop. This is awesome. Reverend Cooper. Oh man, such such a testimony,
Thank
such
you.
a transparent moments that you shared. We're thankful that you're still alive. We continue to keep you in prayer as you continue to walk this life, and even as you share your testimony, it has been a help to someone today. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, absolutely. Reverend Starworth, man, that's an awesome person. And again, I'm so thankful for our connection that we made through a mutual colleague, Dr. Tondi. And I don't know if she's even watching. She should be watching.
Yes.
I'm going I have to text her. Shame on her for not watching us today. You know what? I did not send her the notice, so I won't get her publicly. But she made that connection, and I am so thankful that we've been able to work together, and look forward to doing more of that. In my closing remarks, please.
If I could just throw in just for 2
Yes.
seconds,
Mm-hmm.
let me just thank you for the opportunity as well to share with my
Yes.
dear friend Reverend Odell and to be on your show. Thank you so much. And also, I just want to plug my book. I have a book, Before You Give Up, Consider These Things, which has to do with endurance. And I hope people will go and pick up a copy from Amazon.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, yeah. Please let us know what's the name of the title of the book again?
Before You Give Up, Consider These Things. And I was running so fast, I meant to bring a copy in with me and did not. Before You Give Up, Consider These Things.
I ordered my copy today.
Awesome. It's on my Facebook page right now. It's first day.
Oh my Lord. Wonderful. Please go do that. Reverend Cooper, do you have any materials that you want to publicize?
I do. I am in the midst of finalizing a peer-to-peer mental health advocate training program.
Okay.
Teaching everyday people, not you doctors or clinicians who know mental health, but everyday people how to recognize mental health behaviors in ourselves and in our families, and to address them and deal with them, as well as some of the cultural myths and generational trauma that we pass down to family. And I'm testing the book now with the youth community. There is a book for the saints, book for the ain'ts, and the youth. So we've got to be able to help our children know when they pull a trigger, the impact that that has on a family, more so than just street credits. And we have to let them know the impact of what happens to a family when they're going through trauma. So the program is called Peer to Peer. It's called Let's Talk, and it's in its phase 2, and it should be in publication this year.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. So please hit me up so when everything is set and ready to be released and distributed, we'll definitely publicize. We'll have you back on the show. That's what we'll do. You got to come back. All right.
Thank
So,
you.
and
Love
when I
to.
say
Thank
those
you for
things,
the
people who
invitation.
know me, they know that I actually follow through. You know, some people just be saying stuff, but no, you will be back, and hopefully, I have proven myself to be a man of my word. And I want to make sure. Thank you, Dr. Starworth, for putting it out there. I'm going to actually just highlight it real quick so it will show up for those people who are going to watch our replays. People who watch the replay are actually 3 times the number of people who are on live. So I never get that worry about the number of people as far as lives, because we have hundreds of people who go back and watch these shows. And this is, I can already tell, is going to be one of our top shows because how many people have stayed on consistently. And so thank you. And thank you for those who have watched the replays. Please stay put, panelists. I'm just going to close this out. Hope Health Systems, where I'm Chief Medical Director, is the sponsor of this particular show of Ask the Doctors. We are a mental health facility located in Woodlawn, Maryland. We are a large outpatient mental health center. If you're in need of direct care, live in the state of Maryland, hit us up and we will do you some good. 410-265-8737. That is our phone number, or Hope Health Systems. You can check us out online. You can even do an intake online, or referral, I should say, for an intake online, and we'll get you paired up and make sure that you have those services that you need. Hope Health Systems. All right. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day. Got to run here, and we'll see you next week. All right. Thank you.